Welcome, everyone, to a jaw-dropping tale of betrayal, resilience, and redemption set against the dazzling backdrop of Hollywood. Imagine a millionaire husband, a pregnant wife, and a scheming mistress tangled in a web of secrets that'll unravel in ways you won't believe. Stick around to see how a single shattering moment sparks a rise so epic it'll leave you speechless. Hit that like button and let's dive in. In the heart of Los Angeles, where the sun kisses the palm trees and fame flickers like a mirage, Ethan Caldwell reigned as a king of glitz and power. At 42, he was the golden boy of the entertainment world, a self-made millionaire who'd clawed his way from a nobody to the head of Caldwell Studios, a film production empire churning out blockbusters that lit up the silver screen. His mansion in Hollywood Hills was a fortress of luxury, sprawling glass walls reflecting the city's glow, marble floors echoing with every step, and a pool that shimmered like liquid sapphire under the California sky. To the world, Ethan was untouchable, charismatic, cunning, and dripping with swagger. But beneath the polished suits and flashing smiles, a storm was brewing, one that would tear his perfect life apart. Sophia Bennett, 30, was the radiant heartbeat of Ethan's world, or so she'd thought. Pregnant with their first child at 6 months, her belly swelled with a promise of new life, a tiny miracle she cradled with trembling hope. A gifted interior designer, Sophia had once dazzled clients with her ability to transform spaces into dreams. Soft curves of furniture, warm hues of fabric, and bursts of creativity that whispered elegance. She'd met Ethan 5 years ago at a star-studded gala, his bold charm sweeping her off her feet. Back then, he'd been a dreamer with a spark in his eye, whispering promises of a future where they'd build a family bathed in love. Now, that spark had dimmed, replaced by a cold ambition that left Sophia shivering in its shadow. The third player in this twisted drama was Vanessa Ray, 28, a rising actress with a smile that could melt hearts and eyes that hid a razor-sharp hunger. Her raven hair cascaded like silk, her voice purred with seduction, and her presence demanded attention. She'd landed a breakout role in Ethan's latest film, Midnight Shadows, a sultry thriller poised to dominate the box office. But Vanessa wasn't content with just fame. She wanted power, and she'd set her sights on Ethan, the man who could catapult her to the top. What started as stolen glances on set had spiraled into something darker, something forbidden, and Ethan, blinded by her allure, had tumbled headfirst into her trap. It was a balmy Tuesday evening when Sophia's world cracked open. She'd been lounging in the mansion's sun-drenched living room, her hands resting protectively on her swollen belly, when Ethan's phone buzzed on the coffee table. He'd stepped out to take a call from a producer, leaving the device unattended, a rare slip for a man obsessed with control. Curiosity tugged at Sophia, a nagging itch she couldn't ignore. She swiped the screen and her breath caught in her throat. There it was, a string of messages from Vanessa, each one dripping with intimacy. "Last night was unforgettable," one read. "Can't wait to feel your hands again," said another, punctuated with a winking emoji that stabbed Sophia's heart like a dagger. Her pulse thundered, her vision blurred with hot tears. She scrolled further, each word searing her soul. Plans for secret meetups, flirty promises, a photo of Vanessa in lingerie that mocked Sophia's every insecurity. The room spun as betrayal sank its claws into her chest. She'd suspected Ethan's late nights at the studio weren't just about work, but this? This was a gut punch, a betrayal so raw it stole the air from her lungs. When Ethan strode back in, his tie loosened and a smug grin on his face, Sophia's voice trembled with fury. "Who's Vanessa to you, Ethan?" she demanded, holding up the phone like a weapon. His grin vanished, replaced by a flash of panic that quickly hardened into defiance. "What are you doing snooping through my stuff?" he snapped, snatching the phone from her grip. His hazel eyes, once warm with love, now glinted with ice. Sophia stood her ground, her voice rising. "Don't dodge the question. Are you sleeping with her? While I'm carrying your child?" The accusation hung heavy, a thunderclap in the pristine silence of their mansion. Ethan's jaw clenched, his hands curling into fists. You don't get to interrogate me, Sophia, he growled, stepping closer, his towering frame casting a shadow over her. I'm on the verge of the biggest premiere of my career. Midnight Shadows is everything. I don't need your drama screwing it up. His words sliced through her, sharp and merciless, but Sophia refused to crumble. Drama, she shot back, tears streaming down her cheeks. You're cheating, and I'm the problem? What about us? What about our baby? For a fleeting moment, something flickered in Ethan's gaze. Guilt, perhaps, or a ghost of the man he used to be. But it vanished as quickly as it came, swallowed by arrogance. If you can't handle my life, then maybe you don't belong in it, he spat, his voice dripping with venom. I need someone who gets it. Someone like Vanessa. Pack your things and get out. I've got a red carpet to prep for, and I won't let you ruin it. The command hit Sophia like a tidal wave, knocking the breath from her lungs. She stared at him, stunned, as the man she'd loved morphed into a stranger before her eyes. You're throwing me out? She whispered, her voice breaking. I'm 6 months pregnant, Ethan. He turned away, pouring himself a scotch from the crystal decanter, his silence louder than any shout. Go, he muttered, sipping the amber liquid as if she were already gone. I'll send security if I have to. The threat landed like a brick, crushing what little hope Sophia had left. Her legs wobbled, but she straightened her spine, clutching her belly as if shielding her unborn child from the wreckage of their family. Tears burned her eyes as she stumbled to their bedroom, the plush carpet mocking her every step. She flung open a suitcase, stuffing it with clothes, her sketchbooks, and the ultrasound photo of their baby, a tiny heartbeat she'd clung to through every lonely night. Ethan's laughter echoed from downstairs, a cruel soundtrack to her heartbreak as he called Vanessa, his tone light and flirtatious. She's leaving, he said, oblivious to the storm he'd unleashed. Come over tonight. We'll celebrate. Sophia dragged her suitcase to the front door, the weight of betrayal bowing her shoulders. She paused, glancing back at the mansion, the glittering cage she'd once called home. The city lights twinkled beyond the glass, indifferent to her pain. With a final shuddering breath, she stepped into the night, her heart shattered, but her spirit flickering with a defiant spark. Little did Ethan know, this crushing betrayal was only the beginning. Sophia's fall would ignite a rise so breathtaking, it would eclipse his wildest dreams, and Vanessa's schemes would unravel in ways no one could predict. The salty breeze of Santa Monica kissed Sophia Bennett's tear-streaked face as she stood outside her new home, a cramped one-bedroom apartment wedged between a surf shop and a taco stand. The peeling paint on the walls and the faint hum of traffic through the single, smudged window were a far cry from the opulent Hollywood Hills mansion she'd left behind just days ago. At 30, 6 months pregnant, and freshly betrayed, Sophia felt the weight of her shattered world pressing down on her chest. Her suitcase sat unopened in the corner, a silent reminder of the life she'd lost. But beneath the ache, a tiny ember of defiance flickered, whispering that this wasn't the end. It was a brutal, heart-wrenching beginning. The first night was the hardest. Curled on a lumpy mattress, Sophia clutched her belly, her unborn child's gentle kicks the only tether to hope in a sea of despair. Ethan's words echoed in her mind like a cruel refrain. I need someone who gets it, someone like Vanessa. The sting of rejection burned hotter than ever, twisting her insides into knots. She'd given him everything, her love, her trust, her dreams of a family, and he'd tossed her aside like a discarded script. Tears soaked her pillow as she replayed the moment he'd poured that scotch, his indifference slicing deeper than any knife. Yet, as dawn painted the sky with streaks of gold, Sophia's sobs quieted. She wiped her eyes, her gaze hardening. I'm not broken, she whispered to the empty room. Not yet. With no savings tied to Ethan's fortune, only a modest nest egg from her interior design gigs, Sophia knew survival demanded action. Her hands, once steady with a sketchbook, now trembled as she dialed old clients, her voice cracking but resolute. I'm back in the game. she told them, forcing a smile they couldn't see. Small projects, big visions. Let me transform your space. A few hung up, their pity audible in the silence before the click. Others hesitated, sensing her desperation. But one, a quirky bookstore owner named Mia Torres, took a chance. I've got a tight budget, Mia warned, her voice warm over the phone. But I trust your magic, Sophia. Let's do this. It wasn't much. A $500 job to redesign a reading nook. But it was a lifeline, a fragile thread pulling Sophia from the abyss. Days blurred into weeks as Sophia threw herself into work, her pencil dancing across paper with a fury she hadn't felt in years. The bookstore project bloomed under her touch. Cozy armchairs in mustard yellow, shelves draped with fairy lights, a rug that invited barefoot lingering. Mia's delighted squeal when she saw it. This is pure genius! Lit a spark in Sophia's chest, a faint glow of pride piercing the fog of heartbreak. She snapped photos, posted them online, and watched as likes trickled in, each one a balm to her bruised soul. But the glow dimmed when she scrolled past a tabloid headline that stopped her cold. Ethan Caldwell's pregnant wife dumped for starlet Vanessa Ray. A blurry paparazzi shot showed Ethan and Vanessa laughing outside a swanky restaurant, his arm slung around her waist. The caption sneered, Sophia Bennett, not glam enough for Hollywood's golden boy? Humiliation crashed over Sophia like a rogue wave, drowning her fragile confidence. She flung her phone across the room, its clatter echoing her rage. Not glam enough? She muttered, her voice quivering with fury. The words clawed at her insecurities, her swollen ankles, her tired eyes, the way pregnancy had softened her once sleek frame. She'd never craved the spotlight like Vanessa, but to be reduced to a punchline? It was a fresh wound, raw and bleeding. She sank to the floor, hugging her knees, her breath hitching as sobs tore through her. I'm more than this, she choked out, her defiance battling the shame. I have to be. The next morning, Sophia woke with gritty determination etched into her bones. She couldn't erase the tabloid sting, but she could fight back. Quietly, fiercely, on her terms. She hauled herself to a flea market, her budget stretched thin, scavenging for treasures to flip into design pieces. A chipped mirror became a chic accent with a coat of gold paint. A wobbly table steadied under her careful hands. Each sale, $50 here, $100 there, poured into a growing fund, a war chest for her and her baby. She named him Liam in her heart, whispering it to her belly as she worked late into the night, the hum of a sewing machine her lullaby. We're building something, Liam, she murmured, her voice soft but steely. Something they can't take away. But the world outside her tiny sanctuary wasn't done with its punches. One humid afternoon, as Sophia sipped iced tea on her sagging balcony, a stranger in sunglasses snapped her photo from the street below. She froze, dread coiling in her gut. Hours later, her phone buzzed with a text from Mia. Check the news, now. Trembling, Sophia opened a gossip site, and her stomach plummeted. Pregnant ex of Ethan Caldwell spotted in shabby hideout. Eastview screamed the headline, paired with the balcony shot. Her weary face, her hand cradling her belly, the peeling paint framing her like a badge of failure. Comments flooded in, vicious and gleeful. She's a nobody now. Vanessa's the upgrade Ethan deserves. Pathetic. The cruelty seared Sophia's soul, each word a lash against her fragile resolve. She slammed her laptop shut, her breath ragged, her hands shaking. They don't know me, she hissed, fury igniting her veins. They don't know what I'm capable of. She stormed to her sketchbook, her pencil slashing across the page with reckless abandon. Designs for a nursery, bold and beautiful, a sanctuary for Liam. She wouldn't let the world's venom define her. She'd rise, not for their applause, but for her son, for herself. Unbeknownst to Sophia, the tabloid frenzy was only the surface of a deeper storm. Across town, Vanessa's smirk widened as she scrolled through the headlines, her fingers tapping a rhythm of triumph. She'd tipped off the paparazzi, a calculated jab to keep Sophia down. But she held a darker ace up her sleeve, a secret about Ethan that could topple his empire, a ticking bomb she'd detonate when the time was right. Sophia, battered but unbowed, had no idea the chaos lurking ahead. Her fight was just beginning, and the ruins she stood in would soon become the foundation of a comeback so stunning it would shake Hollywood to its core. The air in Sophia Bennett's cramped Santa Monica apartment buzzed with a restless energy, the kind that crackled before a storm. At 30, 7 months pregnant now, she'd clawed her way from despair to a fragile foothold, her design projects blossoming, her spirit bruised but unbroken. The tabloid vultures still circled, their cruel headlines gnawing at her pride. But Sophia had found a rhythm, sketching late into the night, whispering dreams to Liam, her unborn son, as her belly grew rounder. She thought the worst was behind her. She was wrong. Across town, Vanessa Ray was sharpening her claws, and Ethan Caldwell was teetering on the edge of a cliff he didn't even see coming. It started with a phone call that jolted Sophia from a rare moment of peace. She'd been sipping chamomile tea, her sketchbook open to a bold new design, when Mia Torres's voice burst through the line, urgent and trembling. "Sophia, turn on Channel 7. Now!" Sophia fumbled for the remote, her heart pounding as the TV flickered to life. A perky entertainment reporter beamed from the screen, her words slicing through the room like a guillotine. "Breaking news in Hollywood!" Sources confirm Ethan Caldwell's mistress, Vanessa Ray, has a bombshell up her sleeve, a steamy video of the producer in a compromising spot. Could this derail the Midnight Shadows premiere? Stay tuned. The screen cut to a clip of Vanessa smirking outside a club, her eyes glinting with triumph, while Ethan trailed behind, his face a mask of fury. Sophia's tea slipped from her hands, shattering on the floor in a spray of porcelain and liquid. Her breath hitched, her mind racing. A video? Compromising? The betrayal she'd endured, Ethan's affair, his cold eviction of her, suddenly felt like child's play compared to this looming catastrophe. She should have felt vindicated, watching him squirm under the spotlight he'd chased so ruthlessly. Instead, dread coiled in her gut. This wasn't just about Ethan's humiliation. It was a grenade, and she was still too close to the blast zone. The tabloids would feast on her again, painting her as the pitiful ex caught in his wreckage. "No," she growled, her voice trembling with resolve. "I won't be their punching bag." Across Los Angeles, Ethan Caldwell paced his Hollywood Hills mansion like a caged lion, his polished facade crumbling. At 42, he'd built an empire on charisma and control, but now both were slipping through his fingers. Vanessa had blindsided him. What he'd thought was a fling, a reckless escape from Sophia's quiet strength, had morphed into a blackmail scheme that threatened to torch everything. She'd recorded him in a hotel room months ago, drunk and unguarded, spilling secrets he'd buried deep, shady deals, a rigged casting couch, whispers of sabotage against rival producers. "Give me the starring role in your next film," Vanessa had purred over the phone that morning, her voice dripping with venom. "Or this video goes live. You'll be finished, Ethan." His fists clenched, his pulse roaring. "You wouldn't dare!" he'd spat. Her laugh had been a dagger. "Watch me." The Midnight Shadows premiere was 2 days away, a $50 million gamble Ethan couldn't afford to lose. Investors were jittery, the press was ravenous, and now Vanessa held his fate in her manicured hands. He stormed to his bar, pouring scotch with a shaking hand, his mind a chaotic swirl of rage and panic. "Sophia!" he muttered, the name slipping out unbidden. She'd warned him. What about us? And he'd shoved her away, blinded by Vanessa's glitter. Now, regret gnawed at him, bitter and sharp. He dialed her number, desperate for an anchor, but it went straight to voicemail. "Damn it," he hissed, hurling the glass against the wall. It exploded in a shower of amber and shards, mirroring the chaos erupting inside him. Meanwhile, Sophia's world tilted further when a cryptic email landed in her inbox. The sender was anonymous, The subject line chilling. Vanessa's secret, you deserve to know. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, dread warring with curiosity. She clicked. Attached was a grainy photo, a birth certificate, and a note. Vanessa Ray is Vanessa DeLuca, daughter of Marco DeLuca, the director Ethan ruined in Su-8. She's out for blood. Sophia's breath caught, her mind reeling. Marco DeLuca, a legend Ethan had sabotaged years ago, leaking lies to sink his career. Vanessa wasn't just a mistress, she was vengeance incarnate, a ghost from Ethan's past, wielding a weapon deadlier than any affair. The pieces snapped into place with a sickening clarity. Vanessa's charm, her relentless pursuit. It wasn't love or lust, it was a calculated strike. Sophia's hands shook, anger surging through her veins like wildfire. She'd been collateral damage in a war she hadn't signed up for, but now she held a match, and she wouldn't let Vanessa burn her down. The premiere loomed, a glittering battleground where fates would collide. Sophia made a choice. She'd confront Vanessa, not for Ethan, but for herself, for Liam, for the life she was fighting to reclaim. The night of the premiere arrived, a frenzy of flashing cameras and velvet ropes outside Grauman's Chinese theater. Sophia slipped in uninvited, her black dress hugging her pregnant frame, her eyes blazing with a fury she'd never known. She spotted Vanessa on the red carpet, radiant in crimson, basking in the spotlight as Ethan fidgeted beside her, his smile strained. The crowd buzzed, oblivious to the storm brewing. Sophia pushed forward, her heart hammering, until she stood face to face with the woman who'd upended her life. "Vanessa DeLuca!" she called, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade. Heads turned, gasps rippled. Vanessa's smirk faltered, her eyes narrowing. "What did you say?" "You heard me," Sophia shot back, stepping closer, her defiance electrifying the air. "Marco DeLuca's daughter, right? Hiding behind a fake name to settle a score. Tell me, does Ethan know he's your pawn?" The crowd hushed, cameras swiveling, as Vanessa's composure cracked. "You don't know what you're talking about," she hissed, but her voice wavered. Ethan froze, his face draining of color. "What the hell is this?" he demanded, his gaze darting between them. Sophia held up the printed birth certificate, her hands steady despite the tremor in her soul. "She's blackmailing you, Ethan. A video. Revenge. You picked the wrong snake to sleep with." Chaos erupted. Reporters surged, shouting questions. "Is it true?" "What video?" As Vanessa lunged for the paper, her nails grazing Sophia's arm. Security swarmed, pulling her back as she shrieked, "You'll regret this!" Ethan staggered, the weight of his sins crashing down. The premiere dissolved into a circus, the film forgotten as headlines exploded. Caldwell caught in Mistress's revenge plot. Sophia stood tall amidst the madness, her breath ragged, but her spirit unbroken. She'd lit the fuse, and the blast had shaken Hollywood's foundations. Ethan's empire teetered, Vanessa's mask shattered, and Sophia walked away, her head high, the echoes of her courage ringing in the night. She didn't know it yet, but this fiery stand was the spark that would ignite her rise, a blaze so fierce it would outshine them all. The war wasn't over, but Sophia had drawn first blood, and the taste of victory was intoxicating. The fallout from the Midnight Shadows premiere hit Los Angeles like a tsunami, its waves crashing through headlines and shattering lives. Sophia Bennett, 30, stood at the edge of the wreckage she'd ignited, her heart pounding with a strange cocktail of exhaustion and exhilaration. 7 months pregnant, she'd faced Vanessa Ray, revealed as Vanessa DeLuca, a vengeful phantom from Ethan's past, and unleashed a scandal that turned Hollywood upside down. As she retreated to her Santa Monica apartment that night, the city buzzed with her name, not as a victim, but as a force. The tabloids that once mocked her now scrambled to rewrite their narrative, their pens dripping with awe. Sophia didn't care. She cradled her belly, whispering to Liam, "We're free now," her voice trembling with a quiet, fierce pride. The next morning, sunlight streamed through her smudged window, bathing the tiny space in a golden glow. Sophia's phone buzzed relentlessly, texts from Mia Torres, Her loyal friend and client flooded in. "You're a legend! They're calling you the Queen of Payback!" A shaky laugh escaped her lips, the first in weeks, as she scrolled through the chaos online. Clips of Vanessa's meltdown looped endlessly, her crimson dress a blur as she lunged, her shrieks drowned by the crowd's gasps. Ethan's stunned silence dominated every frame, his empire teetering on the brink. Sophia should have felt triumph, but a pang of something softer, pity, perhaps, flickered in her chest. She shook it off, her resolve hardening like steel. "He made his bed," she muttered, turning to her sketchbook. It was time to build, not mourn. Across town, Ethan Caldwell's Hollywood Hills mansion felt like a tomb. At 42, he'd once strode through life with unshakable swagger, but now he slumped on a leather couch, the air thick with the stench of spilled scotch and regret. The video Vanessa had leaked, grainy, damning, spread like wildfire. Ethan, slurring through confessions of dirty deals, his hands roaming her in a haze of arrogance. Investors fled, pulling millions from midnight shadows overnight. The studio's stock plummeted, lawsuits loomed, and whispers of career suicide haunted every call he dodged. His phone lit up with a text from his assistant, Jake. "Board wants you out. It's over." Ethan's roar of fury rattled the glass walls, his fist slamming the table. "Over?" he snarled. "I built this." But the truth gnawed at him, relentless and bitter. Vanessa's betrayal had gutted him, her true identity, Marco DeLuca's daughter, a knife he'd never seen coming. Worse, Sophia's stand had exposed his rot to the world. He'd thrown her out, pregnant and pleading, for a mirage of power that now mocked him. Alone in the dim light, Ethan scrolled through Sophia's old designs online. Elegant, soulful, a testament to the woman he'd discarded. His throat tightened, a sob clawing its way out. "What have I done?" he whispered, the words echoing in the hollow space. Pride had been his throne. Now it was his prison. Meanwhile, Sophia's world bloomed from the ashes. The bookstore project with Mia had caught the eye of a luxury furniture brand, Haven and Hearth, whose CEO, Lila Grayson, called her personally. "Your vision's raw, real," Lila said, her voice crisp over the line. "Design a nursery line for us. Exclusive, timeless. Name your price." Sophia's breath hitched, her hands trembling as she clutched the phone. "I'm in," she replied, her voice steady despite the storm of joy surging inside. Days later, she poured her soul into sketches, cradles carved with gentle curves, mobiles dancing with stars, fabrics soft as a mother's touch. Each stroke was a defiance, a love letter to Liam, a promise of a life unshackled from Ethan's shadow. Weeks flew by, and Sophia's designs hit Haven and Hearth showrooms like a revelation. Critics raved, "Bennett's work redefines cozy chic," and sales soared. Her name splashed across glossy magazines. She moved from her cramped apartment to an airy loft in Venice Beach, its white walls a canvas for her dreams. The tabloids shifted their tune, dubbing her the Phoenix of Design, a title she wore with quiet grace. But the real triumph came late one stormy night when contractions gripped her. Alone but unafraid, she drove to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, her hands tight on the wheel, her spirit blazing. Hours later, Liam arrived, a 6-pound bundle of wonder, his tiny cries piercing the silence. Sophia wept, cradling him, her heart swelling with a love so fierce it eclipsed every wound Ethan had left. Back in Hollywood, Ethan's downfall deepened. The board ousted him, his name scrubbed from Caldwell Studios as creditors circled like vultures. Vanessa vanished, her career torched by her own venom, leaving Ethan to face the rubble alone. He sold the mansion, retreating to a sterile condo downtown, its gray walls a mirror to his hollow soul. Late at night, he'd watch Sophia's rise unfold online. Her nursery line, her glowing smile at a launch event, her belly gone and a baby in her arms. Regret twisted his gut, sharp and relentless. "She did it," he murmured, his voice cracking. "Without me." Driven by a desperate ache, Ethan showed up at Sophia's loft one dusk, unannounced, his hair disheveled, his eyes sunken. She opened the door, Liam cooing in her arms, and froze. "What do you want?" she asked, her tone icy, her stance a fortress. Ethan's bravado crumbled, his hands fidgeting. I. I saw the news. The baby. Our son. I'm sorry, Sophia, for everything. His voice broke, raw with a vulnerability she'd never heard. I was a fool. Vanessa, the studio, it's all gone. I need to see him. Sophia's gaze hardened, her arms tightening around Liam. You don't get to waltz in now, Ethan, she snapped, her words laced with steel. You chose her. You threw us out. I built this life without you. Every brick, every tear. Why should I trust you? Ethan flinched, her truth a lash across his soul. I don't deserve it, he admitted, his eyes glistening. But he's my son too. Please. For a moment, silence reigned, heavy with unspoken pain. Sophia's resolve wavered, Liam's innocent gurgle tugging at her heart. One chance, she said finally, her voice firm but softer. Prove you've changed. For him, not me. Ethan nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in his chest as he stepped back, the door closing with a quiet thud. Sophia turned away, kissing Liam's forehead, her spirit soaring despite the ache. She'd risen, higher, brighter, while Ethan's world burned to ash. The nursery line exploded globally, her net worth climbing past Ethan's faded millions, her name a beacon of resilience. She didn't need his apology. She'd forged her own empire, one rooted in love, not greed. But as she gazed at Liam, she wondered if Ethan's ruin might spark something new, a redemption she'd never expected. The stage was set for a fragile truce, a final act neither could predict. Sophia's triumph was undeniable, a blazing testament to her strength. Ethan's fall was complete, but a whisper of possibility lingered, one she'd face on her terms, with Liam as her North Star. The Venice Beach loft glowed with the soft hum of morning, sunlight spilling over Sophia Bennett's world, a sanctuary she'd carved from heartbreak at 30. Liam, now 3 months old, babbled in his starry mobile crib, his bright eyes a mirror of her own. Her nursery line with Haven and Hearth had soared to global heights, her name whispered in design circles from Paris to Tokyo. Money flowed, millions eclipsing Ethan's faded fortune. But Sophia's true wealth lay in the peace she'd fought for, the love she poured into her son. She'd risen from the ashes of betrayal, a phoenix in full flight, her spirit unbreakable. Yet, as she gazed at Liam, Ethan's plea lingered in her mind, a fragile thread she couldn't quite sever. Ethan Caldwell, 42, had stumbled far from his Hollywood throne. The condo downtown was a stark cage, its silence a constant rebuke to his past arrogance. Caldwell Studios was a memory, sold off to settle debts, his name a cautionary tale in tabloids. But fatherhood flickered as a lifeline, a chance to salvage something pure. He'd started small, texting Sophia updates on his life, a job consulting for indie filmmakers, a quiet shift to ethical projects. I'm trying, he'd write, his words tentative, earnest. Sophia watched from afar, her heart wary but softening. Liam deserved a father, not a ghost, and Ethan's persistence, humble, unglamorous, hinted at a man reborn. One crisp afternoon, they met at a seaside cafe, neutral ground beneath a sky streaked with hope. Sophia cradled Liam, his tiny hand clutching her finger, while Ethan approached, his once sharp edges dulled by time. He's beautiful, Ethan breathed, his voice thick with awe, tears brimming as Liam cooed. Sophia nodded, her guard easing. He is! They talked, haltingly at first, about Liam's first laugh, his love for ocean waves. Ethan didn't beg for forgiveness. He offered presence, showing up for stroller walks, his hands steady as he held his son. Sophia let him in, inch by inch, not as a husband, but as a co-parent tethered by a shared miracle. Months turned to seasons, and Sophia's empire grew, keynote speeches at design summits, a UN panel on women's empowerment, her voice a beacon for the resilient. Ethan rebuilt too, his indie films earning quiet praise, his pride traded for purpose. They'd never reclaim their past, but Liam bridged their worlds, a bond forged in respect, not romance. One evening, as Sophia tucked Liam in, Ethan lingered at the door. "Thank you," he said, his eyes soft, "for giving me this." She smiled, small but real. "For him," she replied, closing the chapter on bitterness. Sophia's journey, from a pregnant wife cast aside to a global icon, proved that strength blooms in the darkest storms. Ethan's redemption, imperfect but sincere, showed even the fallen can rise anew. Together, they taught Liam that love, not wealth, defines a legacy. Thank you, amazing viewers, for joining this wild ride. Sophia's tale ends here, but yours is just beginning. If her courage sparked something in you, drop a comment, tell us your story. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell. We've got more epic sagas coming your way. Keep shining, because you're stronger than you know.